All right, today we're going to be doing a story. It's story time. We're going to be talking about a situation in Pokemon which has some really good merit and some really good both sides to it. And today we're going to be talking about a story who sent in cards to a grading card company, waited the time to get them back, got them back, showed them, and then had said grading card company come after him, threatening with legal action. So today we're going to be taking a look at that, and I want to hear your opinion. I'm going to try and stay biased through this whole thing, and I'll give my opinion at the end when we're all said and done after we go through the facts and everything. So let's get into it right after this. All right, so today we're going to be talking about the tale of Shiny Vert. That's right, if anybody's been following this and going through this whole situation, and you know what I'm talking about, I'm going to try and do this story as unbiased as I can. I'm trying to keep my bias out of it so that you can get your opinion, maybe see a different perspective of this without all of the excitement that's coming from the user. So let's go ahead and do this summary. And of course, I will list the video down below, both the videos that are pertaining to here for Shiny Vert and his channel. That way you can check him out. Definitely has some really good channel. I will say, I do enjoy his channel. I followed him for quite a while. I've been a subscriber for quite a long time to his channel. And when I saw this video, I was really questioning where this was going to go. And it was a very interesting way of doing things. So once again, I'm going to leave my bias out of this. I'm going to try and keep this unbiased all the way up until my opinion at the very end of this video. But that way you guys can get a real feel for what's going on. And I'm also going to state the facts that I see inside of these two videos when it comes down to the actual part of the system. So when we're looking at it, we're going to start the tale. In the first video that he did, there was a video that he released. I think it was like 11 days ago, depending on when you're watching this video. He had released a video that said that he had sent cut cards to CGC for grading and they came back, which was very interesting that this would happen. And it's a question that a lot of us have had. Even myself, we've questioned it in live discussions. I know that Opossum Bud and Rattle have both questioned the validity to actually grading miscut cards, because how do you determine whether or not that was done at the factory or done at someone's house? It's a very good piece of information for the community to know. Can you get just cards that are cut with scissors through into the CGC grading process and get them back as graded miscut cards by doing so with just a pair of scissors or a shear or some other item, a knife at home? And this was a really interesting topic when I saw it, and definitely was watching to see what had happened. So just to give you a summary, and I'm going to summarize both these videos up so you don't have to watch the full, I think it's like almost 30 minutes of video, and it kind of cuts out some of the things and gets down to the brass tacks of this whole thing. So in the tale, we're going to take a look at what he got. So he got back a submission from CGC. He sent more than just the miscut cards. He sent an actual submission, and as the video starts, he opens up by saying he got these, and he was hoping that CGC did not grade them. He was hoping that they had a way of finding out, and that they were just going to be sent back as ungradable, and that would be the end of it. But he opened a box, and sure enough, there was a bubble, like a bubble wrapped envelope inside of there, and he left it. It was right at the front, and he was hoping that those were the miscut cards. They got kicked out because they were not gradable. Understandably. I mean, we don't want them to be able to do it. So then he goes through a submission. Of course, his biggest thing is he's looking for that gold labeled CGC card, that pristine 10. He's going through, he's getting a lot of 9s, a lot of 8s, a lot of 10s, just the regular gem mint 10s. And sure enough, he does finally get the gold pristine 10 out of the submission, which is great. He got what he was looking for there. He also had a couple other error cards that were crimp cards, and that I understand. I mean, I can understand grading crimp cards because it is pretty hard to find the exact crimp style of a machine, but it isn't impossible. Once again, it's not 100% provable when it comes down to it. So he's going to go ahead and check that out. He's going to open up, and he sent out the 2 crimp cards that he opened on the stream earlier. Awesome. Got the 9s. I think that's the highest that you can get on a error card is a CGC 9. Went through the rest of the submission, got to the end, and sure enough, he pulled this one. And as you can see, it's one of his miscut cards. He cut that personally with a pair of scissors and submitted it, and it did get graded. And it came back as a 9, and it got the miscut short tag on it because it was cut in the shorter direction of the card. Then he pulled the next one, and he got another one of his cut cards, which then was in the short direction. He pulled out the bubble wrap with the envelope inside of it, and sure enough, checked inside of there, and one of the cards was actually kicked back from the submission. Very interesting that when they kicked it out, it wasn't because of the miscut problem or that they stated it was a tampered with card, he actually stated that it was just because it was under 50% of the card and they wouldn't grade it. Just like a dollar bill going to the bank. You're not going to be able to cash in a dollar bill if you've got less than 50% of the bill. That's just the way that the bank works when it comes down to it. So it's another one of those dynamics, another one of those things that not too unexpected that would happen. But the other fact that was really unexpected is that they didn't catch it because he cut it himself. They cut it because of that. So once again, they didn't catch it because it was cut personally. It was because of the size of the card. Finally, he pulls the last graded card out of there, and it is the one that he miscut in the narrow direction. So he cut it the lengthwise of the card to see if they would catch that, and they didn't. They graded that one also, all of which got 9s, and it was a very interesting tale. Once again, it was something that I was always wondering what would happen if you did that, and he kind of showed really in good detail what had happened. Well, here comes the interesting part. This is the next part of the tale, which is going to be the CGC email. That's right, he received a CGC email stating that they had seen his YouTube video and had been led on to his YouTube video about him actually sending fraudulent cards into CGC for grading. As a result of doing so, they banned him from ever using CGC services or any of their subsidiary services from now on. The next thing that they also did was tell him that they had removed those certifications and they were no longer valid certifications on those particular cards. They told him that he went against Section 3 of the code, which of course is going to be the knowingly sending fraudulent cards that were either tampered with, dyed, cut, or messed around with, or added to. And this is a big factor when it comes down to this whole story. Now we're going to go ahead and take a look at what he looked at next, which was the Section 20. And I couldn't find Section 20 on the Code of Conduct and CGC. That was actually not on there, and I'm wondering if they're actually referring to the legal actions, and that might be on a different part or a different area. It wasn't in the Code of Conduct because the Code of Conduct only went to 18 points. So Section 20 was actually stating that he, for legal reasons, needed to send this back to CGC so that they could fix the actual labeling and label it correctly based on the information that was actually on that card, which means pretty much that they were going to remove the certification. I don't know if he needed to necessarily send back the card, but he would have to send back the actual tag inside of that card to pretty much, they're going to destroy it and get rid of the chances he might sell that as a fraudulent card, as a miscut card fraudulently out into the public. And of course, if someone were to get this in the public, he could have legal ramifications when it comes down to it, because CGC is not going to take the legal ramifications if they remove the cert for this. You're going to have to, and what they're informing him in this particular instance is that he is going to have to face any kind of legal ramifications that come from this particular part of selling or exchanging this particular card out into the public besides himself. So, of course, he takes that as a fact that he's going to have legal actions put against him and that they want that card back no matter what. And that's what he's pushing now, is that CGC is trying to use legal actions against him in order to get back cards. So this is pretty much the story, and this is kind of an interesting tale, and it's something we've all been wondering about. So once again, is there going to be legal actions taken against him? Yet to be seen. I'm going to be interested to see where the video continues on from here. But we're going to look at the facts. All right, guys, so now we're to the facts. Now, what facts can we pull out of these two videos? And there's a lot of different things that are inside of here that are conjecture and also facts that are being given by the actual notifications from CGC and what was actually taking place. First fact I'm going to put up here. Did Shiny Vert cut these cards knowingly? Yes, I think that's a definite yes. He stated through the whole video that he knowingly cut cards with the intent of sending them through CGC to see if he could get them through. Did CGC go through and ban his account and remove those certifications out of the system? Yes, he is now officially banned from CGC and all his subsidiaries, and he also had those certifications removed. Did Shiny Vert submit those 4 cards knowing that they were fraudulent? Yes, it's hard to say that he didn't knowingly submit those into the system. Now, did he break Section 3 and, of course, deal with Section 20 of their code? Well, like I said, I can't find a Section 20. I looked through and I found a Section 18. I'm guessing a Section 20 is from a different one. Section 3, though, he did definitely break Section 3 of the code, which is, of course, knowingly sending fraudulent items into CGC with the purpose of getting them graded. He did do so. That's unarguable. Did CGC request cards back under legal precedence? No. So if you actually read what he says, and I could see how, if you're trying to think about this as a big guy, little guy situation, how you might think that they're pushing legal actions. And what he said in the videos and what he read were not anything about legal actions being taken right now. What the legal actions would come down to is if he were to sell or distribute those sort of uncertified cards, knowing that they were illegally or fraudulently pushed through CGC, then he would have to deal with the legal ramifications of those particular cards. If it came back on CGC that they were actually fraudulent cards, then CGC would, of course, reciprocate and send that to him as fraudulent cards, and he would have to deal with the legal side of any situation that came up with those cards. That's basically what that section was saying, what he read. Now, there might be something that he didn't read on the thing, and it didn't get transferred into his video, but by the video, and that's all I can go with, is by the videos that he has, and on his Instagram account, he does not show any sections that says that they are currently seeking legal ramifications against him for doing this. But if he did sell them or distribute them, then he would be potentially looking at legal ramifications. Did Shiny Vert show community issues with CGC? Yes, absolutely. He did a really great job. He showed the issues that there are with CGC with this whole system. Once again, it's great to see this in the community, and it's definitely something that is very knowledgeable to know that you can just get cut cards. So it means anybody that's in that error section looking for miscut cards from CGC could be potentially just buying something that someone used a pair of scissors on. So it's definitely a great piece of information when it comes down to the community side of this grading error cards from CGC. Was non-communication an issue in this situation? Yes, I think it was a both-way communication issues, and I'll get into that in my opinion a little bit on this situation. But overall, I think that there could have been some better communications, both from Shiny Vert and from CGC, that maybe could have stopped some of these issues and going to the extreme that we're seeing at this point in time. CGC can't tell a difference between faulty cut cards and factory cut cards. Absolutely. They can't see if one's falsely cut at home with a pair of scissors, and they can't tell if it was done in the factory, which was a big situation that a lot of us, like I said, Rattle Pokemon, Possum Bud, even I've talked about it in lives when it comes down to error cards and why I don't get into error cards, is because there's no way to know, even if you get a graded one from CGC, that it wasn't done by person. It's extremely difficult to be able to tell which one's real and which one's fake, which one was done in the factory and which one was done in a home. So at the end of the day, it's really difficult to know that, and I don't know how CGC could tell that unless they went down to the microscopic level. And that means they would have to have a specialist looking at those cards, because I can tell you from a manufacturing aspect, if you look at cards and you look at cut patterns, you can see if it was sheared, you can see if it was done with scissors, you can see if it was done with a knife, but you're not going to be able to tell if it was done by a factory shear or one of the paper shears that you can purchase at just any kind of store like Walmart or Hobby Lobby to be able to cut paper. You could use that right on there and it will look like the same shearing action that they use at the actual factory. So once again, it shows that it's not possible. You can't tell by looking at these cards, and CGC themselves can't tell if it's fraudulent or not, which means that a lot of these cards that were actually done and gone through CGC are going to potentially be fakes. And it was a real question that we've always had for a long period of time, and it definitely shows. Next thing, one part about it is proving no grading company should be grading or authenticating miscut cards. Absolutely. This 100% shows that by the facts that you can't be having any grading company doing this. Once again, it's very difficult to go through and show this and actually determine whether or not these were fake. So I don't believe that any grading company should be going with miscut cards specifically. Misprint, error cards like labeling and typing, things like that we know are error cards from the factory are definitely something that we could be discussing. But when it comes down to actually like miscuts and even crimps, I mean, I think you could fake a crimp too. I think you could set up a device to potentially do the same crimping pattern as what we are seeing on actual packs themselves. So once again, it's not an impossibility. It wouldn't take a lot of work, but it'd be a little bit more difficult than a miscut, of course. But once again, I think printing errors and things like that are definitely something that's acceptable if you wanted to go that route because they can be proven, while miscuts and crimps are very difficult to prove. So once again, should they be authenticating these and should they be grading these particular cards when they're miscut or crimps? No, I don't believe that there's a real good reason to be doing that. So once again, these are really the big facts that we have coming out of this. And now we're going to go to my opinion. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to go into my opinion on this whole thing. And hopefully you guys have gotten a little bit from the facts and from what the story is, have kind of built yourself up with a little bit of a basis on this. Now, my opinion is that there's two situations going on at the end of the day. Number one, CGC is doing something that they shouldn't. And it's been something that's been brought up. And be honest with you, nobody was willing to jump on the grenade to find out if it was actually a thing or not. Let's be honest. I know several people have looked. I know people personally that have looked at doing this, but none of them wanted to destroy their reputation with CGC. Nobody was willing to put their personal accounts and that kind of stuff on the line and get rid of a potential of one of the big 3 or 4 grading companies and get rid of that road and that bridge. They weren't willing to burn it. And that's exactly where that whole situation came up to. When you look at the terms and conditions of any grading company, it's not just CGC, it's PSA, it's Beckett, it's AGS, it's SGC, it's all of them. If you knowingly send fraudulent cards and you go on to a video or Instagram or social media or YouTube or anything that has evidence that you intentionally sent something through grading, and even if it made it through or not, if they find out that you intentionally did that and it wasn't a mistake and that you just didn't know it yourself, they're gonna ban you. PSA will do the exact same thing if they found out that you were tampering with cards intentionally trying to get them through the grading process. If you were inking cards and they found out on a video that you were trying to ink cards and get them through, and some did, PSA is going to ban you. Beckett's going to ban you. AGS, all of them are going to do that. So once again, it's not a surprise to me, and it shouldn't have been a surprise to him that CGC is going to ban him. To me, he broke one of the codes of conducts, which is a banning offense, and any of the breakings of code of conducts end up with a ban. So once again, to me, it's not surprising that he got that ban tag. Now, when I talk about communication-wise and what could you look at for communication, it could have been done differently. I think the bigger thing that you could have looked at for the communication side is you could have communicated with them prior to releasing that video and said, hey, I'm going to be doing a video. I'm probably going to get banned regardless, but the fallout for this may have been a little bit better, because if you would have told them ahead of time that you're going to release this video, this is what I found from your company. Do you want to put a statement in this? Do you want to have an address to this and actually address this issue, maybe in the video, with the video, maybe do something beforehand this video is coming through or same day this video is coming through? They may have been a little bit more lenient on you. They may not have banned you. They may have appreciated it a little bit more. When it comes down to it, when you put a company back on the defensive with a video, especially a big company like CGC, they're going to come after you with everything they got. It's just natural, right? It's not unlikely for them to do that. And once again, I don't blame CGC in a way. I don't like CGC, don't get me wrong. But I also don't exactly like the way that this all played out. There was definitely some different ways you could have communicated this and done things differently. Work with CGC, still release your video and tell them that you might still get banned. There's a chance that they were still going to ban the account, or maybe they would have been willing to work with you. It's a draw on that situation when you go and fraudulently send stuff through. Once again, if you think about it, the vigilante usually ends up in prison with the villain. Just because they're breaking the law to try and get something done, they end up in prison just right along with the person that they were trying to catch. So once again, that's always that situation and that fine line that you can play, and sometimes communication would have been a better option. Granted, CGC could have also communicated with him, but once again, the bigger issue I have is once he releases that video, you're pulling the pin on that grenade and you're jumping on it, man. There's nothing that you're going to do without giving them some heads up before you release that video that, you know, they're going to be accepting about. Beforehand, definitely. Maybe afterhand, they could have done some things, because like you said, he had damage to them to the graded cards. That's definitely a big issue that they could have addressed. They could have maybe discussed with him a little bit more to get more information on these cards. Maybe they could have said that we'd like to get these cards so we can look at them to better our service. Another way that they could have gone about it, rather than just making it sound like they were going to go after legal actions. Overall, with the legal action side, since I'm talking about that, I don't think that CGC is currently looking at doing any legal actions against Shiny Vert. I think overall, the deactivation of those certifications is enough for them to put their distance between those particular slabs. But I also think that they're going to be watching those slabs. And if he sells those slabs, or if someone else goes and puts those certs in and contacts CGC saying, hey, I've got these miscut cards and they're not coming up on your database, but I purchased these, he is going to get legal ramifications at that point. And it's just a warning to him. I mean, honestly, the way that I understand that and the way that it's written, it sounds like it's that if he sells these, or were to do like he said in the video, he was going to give them away. If he gives them away and that person sells them, and then of course they trace back where they came from when that cert's deactivated, you know, maybe he sells it or gives it away in a giveaway to someone, They go and sell that card for profit. Now you got a person selling a fraudulent card for profit. They may not have even known that it was fraudulent when they did the giveaway because they missed the video. There's always that situation where we could go through those chains of events. And that's where CGC, once again, in that section 20, is pretty much stating that they are putting a spacer between it, that if there is legal ramifications on this, buddy, it's coming back on you. You can do what you want with these cards. We can't force you. We can't come to your door, and we can't send a lawyer really to come get this because, yeah, it's as much my fault as it is your fault at the end of the day. You lied. You sent fraudulent cards, but yes, we graded them and sent them back to you. Legally, they can't really do much about it, but they can request it back so that they could either A, fix, repair, or change the labeling, or in this case, I think they would just remove the labeling. And I think that if you were just to break those slabs and send back the cert number, they'd be just fine. Getting back that cert would probably be enough for them to be accepting that, hey, you broke the slabs open, you gave us the cert back, and there's no more reasons that we need to be concerned with this. So once again, I don't think there's any legal ramifications coming from this. And I definitely think that he's okay on that part as long as he doesn't sell them and they never leave his possession. I think that he'll be just fine. I don't think that there's going to be any ramifications for that. Last part of it is going to, of course, be the bigger part of it, which is going to be the whole taking responsibility for it. Now, I've watched the videos, and I've watched each one of these videos probably 3 or 4 times a piece, just to make sure that I covered all the bases and make sure I got all the information, all the facts that I could out of these videos that actually pertained to evidence of what's happening in this situation. When you look at it, neither one of them are really taking responsibility for their actions. Number one, CGC should be addressing this, or maybe removing this service. Granted, putting CGC in the spot currently where they're at, where they no longer have, a big fan base, and this was one of their big services, one of the last services that they had that they were actually able to push, that we're the only one that do error cards, is now you attack that last leg after they're already kind of down on their knees. They're not really happy about it, and they're definitely going to be a little bit more, attackish on that, due to that fact that they're already kind of hurting a little bit because of their changes, and the community itself is kind of against them, just like myself. I'm no longer a fan of CGC, and I probably will never use CGC again. And once again, taking away the error section of that might be a part. Granted, they have not taken responsibility, and they need to. They should be taking responsibility for these actions. They should either A, be trying to find a way that they can prove that these are factory cut, or B, remove the service because it's not possible to be able to tell the difference. And personally, I think they need to remove the service. That's just my take on it. But when it comes down to the responsibility taking and giving, Shiny Vert isn't also taking responsibility for the fact that he sent out fraudulent cards. He thinks that CGC should just give him a free pass because he proved that their service is not right. And it's a good thing for the community. Like I said, a lot of us were not willing to jump on that grenade. I'll give him kudos for that. The fact that he was willing to jump on that grenade. But once again, you jump on the grenade, you're going to die with it. And that's just the fact that matters. So once again, it's an interesting situation. It's an interesting way of looking at it. Personally, I think that there's a little bit of a double fault. The fact that, CGC is allowing these things to go through as authentic and being graded as miscuts. But then the fact that, Shiny Vert sent in fraudulent cards knowingly and breaking the code of conduct and not communicating them before just slamming them on social media, including YouTube, is not a good look when it comes down to it. So once again, double fault. I think that there was a lot of things coming down. The responsibility has still not been seen from either one of these individuals. Be interesting to see how this continues to play out, and I'm definitely going to be watching it to see if any more information comes out on this. Once again, CGC, don't be grading miscut cards. Don't be doing error cards in general, unless it's printing errors. I'm okay with printing errors. I think that there's some really cool printing errors like misspellings and, of course, ink blotches. Those kind of things are ones that are actually on the card, and it's really hard to fake those. But when it comes down to miscuts and ones that you can't prove are done in a factory or done at home, you can't be grading those. There's no real gradability to those particular cards or even being able to authenticate them. There's no way. You can't say that that's being done. So overall, these are the two situations that I'm seeing on this particular case. Once again, I like to back the YouTuber and say the little guy's got this. This is all the little guy's thing, and it's really not. I can't really even say that because what he did was not proper and was not a good way of going about it. But CGC grading them in general is just not good at all. It's just stupid. It's a dumb way to do it. So overall, I'm going to call him this as a double fault, but I just wanted to share a story. It's definitely an interesting information and definitely something that we should be watching out for when we continue to move through the Pokemon community. And as good stewards in the community, we definitely want to bring this stuff forward and have the discussion and actually talk about it. So once again, we'll be continuing to look at these things and definitely keep up with this case. All right, guys, I'm Ed with Northwoods TCG, and of course, if you made it this far in the video, be sure you guys hit that subscribe, hit that notify, and like. Once again, it helps the channel out a ton. Let me know in the comments, do you like this new format? Do you like me going through and doing like a story, a fact, and then actually going through with my opinion? That way you guys can build your own opinion before we get here. I know some of you have heard this story, and probably a lot of people have already been involved with this story, but I definitely wanted to bring it up here because I think that there's a lot of people that just get so psyched up about the big guy, little guy issue, legality, people pushing legal issues. And it's definitely something that's not, I don't think, the case in this particular instance, but there was definitely some fraudulent cards sent to CGC, which of course retaliates with this. And they are going to retaliate, especially when you bash them on social media with probably one of the legs that they have left in the actual hobby. So once again, guys, thanks for watching. If you do like this content, check out the next one too that are going to be coming up at the end. And as always, we'll see you next time here on Northwoods TCG.